Perfect, and we're recording. Hi everyone, and welcome to Unfunk Your Life. This is a call or a webinar, an information session I'm doing for no other reason than actually wanting to have this conversation and perhaps give you some information or awareness that you don't already have. The reason that came up is because I'm someone who's generally pretty happy, pretty good, has a great life, does a lot of creating. And I was still finding that there would be these times or these areas in my life where I would get into this funk. And so when I really started to look at this stuff and I got to some great awareness and information for myself about what was going on, I then thought, hey, I'm just going to do a free call and share this information. And for those of you that know me, thank you for being here. For those of you that don't know me, thank you so much for joining in and seeing what I can contribute to you. I'm going to also be sharing with you a slideshow today, so I will get started with that. Okay, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dr. Adeela Afiz, and I'm a body whisperer and a business whisperer. And what that means is I have for many years been working with people and businesses all over the world. I am by profession trained as a chiropractor. I specialize in working with babies and children in my practice. I work all over the world with people, with businesses of all shapes and sizes. And the things that really I'm about, or that I like to encourage and empower people to do, is to live your life intuitively, meaning it comes naturally to you. It's congruent with you. It's authentic for you. And therefore, if you're doing all of those things, your life is also going to be successful for you. And my definition of success is it doesn't have to be successful based on what anyone else thinks or believes. A successful life to me is a life where you are happy, you are healthy, and you are empowered to be living the life and know that you can live the life that you wish to have. So this webinar or call, the three main things I wanted to talk about or look at is the things that we sometimes feel in our life when we get into a funk. We're either bored, we're either in pain, or we're in pain financially. And that can be anywhere on the scale of struggling financially or feeling like you're broke and you've always been broke, your money isn't working. And some people have all three of these things going on. Others of you may have one thing in particular that drew you to this webinar, and some of you may think that none of this really applies to you, but something about this webinar or call caught your attention. And I'm really glad you're here, because the first point that I wanted to talk about, the being bored, most of us don't recognize or realize that we are bored. So for most of us, and depending on who you are and what you've been doing lately, you are so much more aware, you are so much more in tune, and also though you are so much more entrained to the environment around you than you realize. So for those of us that are familiar with the concept of being an empath or access consciousness, where we talk about who does this belong to a lot, we talk about this concept of so many of the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that we pick up on are not actually ours. And we know this at a cognitive level. We remember to use this tool. We remember to ask this question. However, time and time again, most people really don't believe that they are so aware, that they are as aware as they truly are, and the impact that this has on your life. And why this comes into the being bored category is when we subconsciously, meaning we don't do it on purpose, but when we subconsciously entrain to our environment, when you go to work or you have your family around you or you have your friends around you, and you don't realize that there is a place where we subconsciously, no matter how different we know that we are and how different we feel, and no matter how much we make choices that are good for us, there is still this place where we entrain to those people around us. And so we cut off a lot of that recognition of just how different you are, and you don't function at your 100%. And what that creates is a life that in certain areas, or actually in all areas, is actually boring. However, you don't realize it's boredom because you're living a life just like everyone else. And what that boredom can start to then manifest as is drama or illness or sickness, depression, substance abuse, self-sabotage. These are all of the things that you then need to do in order to be occupied. So most of us don't realize just how bored we are. I can speak to this because I only realized again, and this happens every so often for me in my life, is I'll realize that I'm really bored again. And it makes no sense because how could I be bored when I've got so much going on, when I do more than most people around me, when I'm traveling a lot of the times? How can I be bored? However, you're someone that functions so much more. You function at such a higher level, or you function with these capacities that you have that you don't give yourself credit for. And the mistake, or the one thing that you do that I would encourage you to look at and see if you are doing it, is if you're doing a lot compared to everyone else around you, and you therefore think that there is no way that you can be bored, the problem is you're not anyone else around you. And if you compare yourself or hold yourself in relation to others, it's not going to make sense. But the only person you can kind of compare yourself to is yourself. And when I talk about being bored, I'm talking about being bored in relation to your 100% potential. Where are you functioning at based on your potential? There is hardly anyone that I know. There's a couple of people in my life that I know, and apart from that, nobody else is functioning anywhere near their 100%. Most people are not functioning at greater than 20% of their potential. Most of you are really, really brilliant people who are bored. However, you don't go around saying you're bored. You don't even think you're bored because you have so much stuff going on that you use to distract yourself or to keep yourself thinking that it's okay to be doing what you're doing because everyone around you is doing it. And so you're not giving yourself permission to start to live life to your full potential. So look at an area of your life, whether it's your business, whether it's your body, whether it's relationship, whether it's your life and how it works all together. How does that feel when I ask you, or what awareness do you get when I ask you, to what percentage of your true potential are you functioning at? Are you functioning at 10% of your potential? Are you functioning at 20% of your potential? I'd be very surprised, and I'd love to hear from you if you are functioning at or more than 50% of your true potential. Not what everyone else around you thinks is your full potential, not what everyone else around you is doing. Yeah, so Wendy's at 25%, which is amazing, Wendy. And by the way, I agree, because I know Wendy and she does a million things compared to everyone else. So she is definitely functioning at a higher potential. However, most people would look at Wendy and go, she is crazy. She does so many things. How could she ever be bored? And yet, Wendy's only functioning at 25% of the potential. Same with Sindhu, she's functioning at 25% of the potential. I realized I was functioning at about 15% of my potential, and I was bored to tears, and I have been bored to tears. but it doesn't look like I'm only functioning to 15% of my potential. So it didn't cognitively make sense. So my first question to all of you is, how much of your full potential are you truly working at? And what is it that's holding you back or stopping you from functioning at a higher percentage? And for most people, it's normal. For most people, it's because they're trying to fit in. For most people, it's what they've always done, so they're going to continue to do it. I had a client in the other day, and I said, "Hey, what's your financial target for this year? What are we doing with your business stuff?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, 20% increase." And I was like, 20% increase on last year. I was like, "How much of a challenge is that going to be for you?" And he was like, "Oh, it's not. It's just every year I grow by 20%, whether I do anything different or not. So I just have that as my target." And that's exactly what I'm talking about. We only expect of ourselves what has become so normal and so average and so much what we're used to based on our past or based on what other people are doing. So it's become normal to actually not challenge ourselves truly. Yeah, and Wendy's target is to double your income for this year. That's an amazing target, and mine is pretty similar. And you know, so often we don't set these big goals or targets or things that we wish to achieve because we're scared of failing. So we choose to remain small, or we choose to do what everyone else around us is doing, or what we know we can do. This is the kicker, I think. We choose as our target and our goal what we know we can do, so that we do not set ourselves up to fail. And in doing that, we're keeping ourselves below this barrier of this threshold of boredom. Because when we are only seeking to do something which we know we can do, it means you're not really stretching yourself, you're not growing, you're not expecting of yourself something that scares and excites and makes you think, how am I actually going to do this? I don't actually know. I'm going to have to do something different. I'm going to have to be something different. And that is what changes that boredom energy in our lives. Boredom energy doesn't exist when you're either terrified but also excited about what on earth you wish to achieve that is so different. And yet it's actually not even encouraged to be different or to create different. And there's lots of us right now. I think I just got a message. Yeah. Cinder is talking about creating different, and that is the wavelength that a lot of us are on. And that's why I want to have this conversation as well, because it is in the being different that we are going to be able to outcreate ourselves. Because if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you've always got. And a 20% increase on anything is not exciting enough for most of us. And don't even get me started on all of the things you then have to do in order to make 20% seem hard and difficult enough to keep you occupied. And that's where all that other stuff comes in that I talked about. So then you start creating other areas of your life that are not working or not functioning. Do you have drama with your relationships? Do you have drama with your pay? Do you have friendships that are always requiring your time and attention? If you were truly excited and I don't even know, and engrossed in the creation of your life, you actually don't have time for that stuff. It starts to fall away, and all of the good stuff, all of the stuff that truly is worth you investing your time and energy into, is the stuff that you only have time to spend on. It's not a bad way to function at all. So I'm going to go back to my slideshow here, guys, or I'm just going to look at it and see what else I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, what a wonderful. Or not. Or I've lost it already. Okay. So most of the time, how you spend your day, if you think about how you spend your day, Are you doing enough of the things that light you up, make you feel on fire? And do you have enough, and I'm going to put this in inverted commas, do you have enough passion projects? Do you have enough things that you want to do, whether or not they are going to make you money, whether or not they are giving you a direct return on investment right now? And I'm talking about these things because for most of us, if you're an infinite being, or if you are this person, you have so many different areas of your life where not only do you have an interest, but you are able to be a contribution. And when you cut yourself off and try and keep your life in this really tidy box or square, which involves you, work, family, colleagues, friends, and doesn't mean that you go out into the world and contribute to and receive from and engage with all of the things that actually light you up. And most of those things may be things that you don't do because you put them in the category of they're time consuming, or I'm not going to be paid money for it, or that doesn't pay enough money, or I don't have time. But actually you're only functioning at 20% of your potential. So you do have time, but you're trying to make that 20% take up all of your time. It doesn't make sense to invest your time and energy in things that cost you money and time and don't have a return on investment, except those are the things that create your life as what you wish it to be. Those are the things that give you that feeling of creative energy. These are the things that contribute to you being not only happy in your life, but feeling like you are making a contribution to the world around you and creating the world as you wish to see it. And things don't work in a linear way. Have you ever noticed that things don't work in a linear way? So you'll start doing something that wasn't meant to make you money, or you'll start doing something just for fun, and suddenly it turns into something else and something else and something else, and suddenly you're doing these things that not only light you up, but have created these side businesses, or created such great connections or friendships or other things in your life that you can't imagine your life without. But they only got created in that way because you decided to do something outside of that small box which you've defined for yourself. So for all of you, my question is, where is that box? What does it look like? And where have you been functioning from within that box and thinking and trying to fool yourself and trying to pretend to yourself that you're doing much, much more than that? Okay. Any questions, comments, or queries before we move on to the being in pain part of this? Okay. So, pain. For those of you that are familiar with the word empath or know what that means, or for those of you that are familiar with the term or concept of awareness and being a very aware being a person, and realizing that you pick up on not only what goes on in your life, what goes on in the lives of the people around you, but you're also very much aware of things that can be going on the other side of the world. You are so much more aware than you think you are. The other thing that is important to realize with the pain situation is if you are bored and you are a creator of magnitude, like a lot of you are, often boredom and self-sabotage or drama, like I talked about, are things that you need to create in order to help you not be bored anymore. I've had people with chronic illnesses and chronic diagnoses where they have to go to the doctor all the time and they can't do what they want in their life, and every day they need to talk about this thing that takes up so much of their time and their energy. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't know what to do with all of this potential that they are not using. And so how much of the pain in your life, actually, whether it's physical or emotional, are you creating or causing or tolerating because you're simply not functioning to your anywhere near your full potential. And so this is what you have to engage with and have to engage in order to pass your time. And another thing that I'm working with a lot, I work with a lot of people with anxiety, and anxiety is something that's starting to become such a widespread condition, and something that people are all talking about. And anxiety, and this is just something that is my awareness of working with so many people that have it, is people not knowing what to do with all the awareness that you have. And buying it as yours and thinking that there's something wrong with you. So what I mean by that is, say you are aware of things going on the other side of the world, things going on with the people you love, things going on with strangers, things going on in the medical system, in the political system, things going on with the planet, with the earth. And you have all of this awareness that is, again, non-cognitive, because it doesn't make sense to understand that you know all of this stuff if you've never been introduced to this concept before. But you have all of this awareness. You're also picking up on a lot of the people around you that are in pain. A lot of this reality talks about, if you talk to someone, people don't talk about the great, amazing things going on in their life. They talk about being in pain. They talk about their illness. They talk about not having enough money. There's a lot of physical or emotional pain. And you pick up on it. You pick up on the lack of connection, on the hurt, on the loneliness, on the isolation that a lot of people feel in today's oh-so-connected digital world. But we're lacking connection. We're lacking fulfillment. We're lacking truly feeling like we have purpose. And it creates a lot of issues. It creates mental health issues. It creates health issues. It creates pain, like I'm talking about. And you're aware of that, and you don't realize that you're aware of it, or you realize you're aware of it, but you don't know how to change it. You don't know how to dissipate that awareness. You don't know what you're meant to do with feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. That causes anxiety. That causes panic attacks. That causes you thinking there is something wrong with you. So please be aware of how aware you are. And when you feel like your life is really in a funk, in a particular area especially, so say you suddenly feel really funky about money, say your money situation has just completely turned to custard, or you're starting to really stress about money, or you're feeling really in a funk to do with relationships, or in a funk to do with your body and your health, take a minute to just repeatedly think to yourself, okay, if this wasn't mine, or if I didn't believe that this was mine, what would I be aware of right now? Who else is going through this right now? Who does this belong to? Who does this belong to is a question that we ask a lot in Access Consciousness. And it's one of those questions that I've realized that we ask, but we often don't truly get the awareness of it. Or we ask it once. Or you might ask it twice. I'm going to encourage those of you that do Access to ask the question 10 times and to clear it 10 times before you start to get a sense of whether it's lightening up or changing or not. Because this stuff, again, is so entrained. It's so entrained into our cellular memory to pick up stuff from everyone around us and to make it ours, and to then mimic that behavior so that we fit in. And we think, oh yeah, well, they've got relationship issues, but actually I've got relationship issues too, rather than realizing that your relationship issues are not yours at all, but you are entrained to and mimicking what you see around you. So wherever you feel this funk, again, ask 10 times, who does this belong to? And return it to sender. Ask, and you will start to suddenly receive information about things going on with people that you didn't even know that you thought of or know that you remembered. and it will start to lighten up, it will start to make more sense. And this also applies, and I'm going to talk specifically about finances because recently actually, so access consciousness, for those of you that are not familiar with it, one of the things that I do, I'm a certified facilitator with this body of work called Access Consciousness. And recently they were talking about empaths, and not just empaths, but financial empaths came up. This concept of being a financial empath, where not only do you mimic or are aware of and take on what the pain that other people are feeling in their lives and in their bodies, but the financial situations that are so prevalent and relevant in the world. Now, for most people, I don't know who the people are and what the situations are and what the groups are that you tend to hang around. But for most people, people don't stand around talking about how great their finances are and how much money they're making and how they can't wait to, make even more. Most people have financial situations that are what they complain about, that they see as the greatest limitation in their world, and that they actually see as what they cannot outcreate. Now, if you are an empath, if you are aware, if you are someone that takes on things from other people, you are also going to take on and mimic financial realities. You are especially going to take on and mimic the financial reality of those people closest to you, those people around you, your family, so that even if there is no relevant or particular reason, you might be someone who is in a completely different situation, a completely different place, and a completely different setting to your mother and your father when you were a child, or to your family. And yet you will find yourself creating a fund in your finances. It may look different or it may look the same as what they are doing, but the concept is the same here, having a fund, having your finances not work, feeling like it's such a great limitation in your life. You're going to be, and then you might do all this work to clear it. You might go see people, you might put yourself on, a strict regimen to get yourself out of debt. And then you find yourself in the same place over and over again. What's going on here? If you are a financial empath, you're going to be taking on what the world has as its most prevalent or prevailing point of view around finances and money. And you're going to exhibit it in your body or in your life. So empaths take on pain and they feel it, or they're aware of pain and they feel it. And if you don't have the tools or you don't know how to deal with it, you think it's yours and you make yourself sick. And in that same way, so my question to you, truth, are you a financial empath? Are you aware of, and do you take on, and do you make prevalent in your life the prevailing financial situations that we see around us in the world? And do we give up our reality? Do we give up our financial reality for everyone else's financial reality? Do you give up your financial reality for your mother's financial reality or your father's financial reality? And do you give up your capacity with money and finances and creating your money and finances as you know how, in order to fit in and do what everyone else around you is doing? It's a big one, I tell you. It's been an interesting start to 2019. We've had so many awarenesses. Okay, any questions or comments about the financial empath or the empath in general?
It's interesting because I was just reviewing the clearing from Foundation, and it's one thing listening to the clearing. It's another thing when you put it out the way you did just now. It's sort of, I guess it's just more awarenesses that came in.
Oh.
And yeah, it's like, wow, like so like, and the funny thing is, I spend so much energy judging myself for the way I spend money, or, you know, like, why is it you create money and then you just spend money and all that? And then now I'm looking at, like, from different point now, it's like, wow, if I just keep just picking up, I will just keep repeating because I wasn't aware or asked the questions that, who does that belong? It's so simple, and yet we still fall into the trap of not asking questions, isn't it?
And you said something so important, which I'm still going to talk about more, is how we just keep repeating it. We keep doing it and we keep doing it. And we may even wonder, like we're aware enough to realize that this is really not working for us, that we could be doing something different. And we even try to do something different. But you wonder why it doesn't translate into something different, because you'll do something different for a little while, but then it's not long until that financial empath, or that, you know, that way of functioning, which is so ingrained in you, it runs so deep, it means that even if you are doing something different, it either doesn't last long, or something else I talk about is it looks different on the outside, but it's not really different underneath. So it looks like you're doing something different, you're doing a different action, but it creates the same result because the underlying energetic vibration, or the reason you're doing something, is still compelled by, or needs to create the same result, because you have not given yourself permission to create different to what everyone around you is creating. So I hope that sheds some light and some information for a lot of you. Okay, so that is broke. We've done bored, we've done in pain, and let's see what's next. Okay. Stepping into your capacities. So what do you do once you have this awareness? So you're an empath, you're aware, you pick up stuff from other people. What do? You realize you're only working to 5, 10, 15, 20% of your true potential. First of all, acknowledge this. Acknowledge that this is what's actually true for you. It will start to set you free. It's going to start to make you feel like, oh my God, I thought I was going to go crazy because I didn't know what was wrong with me, but this will start to set you free. And again, I'm going to re-emphasize, realize how bored you are and how little you have been choosing, and that you can have so much more, and you can do so much more, and you can be so much more than what you have been giving yourself permission to be. Because you haven't been giving yourself permission to be more, do more, and have more than most of the people around you. And lastly, remember to only ever use yourself as the reference point. You can only use yourself in reference to your own potential as to figuring out what's true for you, what's light for you, and to how much of your potential you're working to. You can't use a friend, you can't use the people around you, because it doesn't work that way. That's how you entrain to functioning the same as everyone else, okay? Okay.
Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Well, it's like me or you, for example, Wendy, is we look at the people around us because we've still made a lot of different choices, and so we have these people around us. And so even if I use myself and Wendy as an example, Wendy and I are friends, and so I could think, hey, I'm doing quite a bit and Wendy's doing quite a bit, and we're doing about the same as each other, so we must be good. Like, we're good because we're creating so much more than, you know, everyone else around us in our lives. However, if we don't stop to ask the question, okay, to what extent of my true potential am I functioning to? I'm only functioning at 15%. Wendy's functioning at 25% of her true potential compared to herself. not compared to Adeela, not me compared to Wendy. It's going to give you a false reading if you're using other people. You can only compare yourself to yourself. It's the only way to get a true awareness of where you're functioning at and where you're lying to yourself, where you're taking on what is normal and what is meant to be, or what is high functioning. See, also, if you're a high functioning person and you've been told your whole life, oh my gosh, you're so smart, you're so much more intelligent, you do so much more, oh my God, you're hyperactive, oh my gosh, how do you do so much compared to everyone else? Then you've actually been entrained to believe that you're doing so much more and you're already functioning at such a higher level than everyone else. You don't stop to ask the question, okay, just because I'm doing more than everyone else, am I actually doing as much as I truly can compared to me? And if you ask that question, you realize, hell, I'm still bored as hell because I'm doing so much compared to everyone else, but compared to what I could actually be doing, I'm doing a quarter of it. And no wonder I'm bored. And no wonder I'm wondering, what else can I do? But I can't actually go out and say that because people will think I'm even weirder than they already think I am, because I'm already a freak that does 5 times as much as the normal average person. Okay, so that's what that means. You can only use yourself as a reference point, not even someone who you judge or think is doing more than you. If it inspires you, great. Like I use a lot of people to inspire myself and go, oh, well, look at what that person created. And I'll use it as inspiration, but I still have to ask, what's true for me? What are my capacities? And where am I not functioning to the extent or to the place that I could be functioning at if I would truly function to my potential? Okay. So next is, are you a healer? So this webinar or talk, I wanted to talk about the areas where you get your life into a funk, and that happens for one of 2 reasons. You either are bored, as we've been speaking about, and you're not functioning to your full potential, or you've cut off your creative capacities. You've cut off the person that you truly are. You've cut off your gifts and talents. And for a lot of you, that includes being a healer. So what is a healer? What do I mean by that? Healers tend to be people who are aware, who care a lot about others. If you're one of those people that cares too much, or you've been told you care too much, or like me, you know, you cry a lot and you care about the people on the other side of the world that you've never met, or you're often sick, you're susceptible to illness or injury or even moods. You know, if you encounter, like I said, if you hear about something really sad that's happening to someone on the other side of the world, it will get you down. It will make you sad. Or you're sensitive to environments and people. If you go somewhere different and there's lots of different energies around, or you meet new people, it can have an effect on you. If you are someone who's intuitive or gut-based, meaning that you rely on gut instincts, or you have a gut feeling, but you may or may not listen to it. Maybe you go against your gut a lot, but it does speak to you. And importantly, you don't have to be a healer or a therapist. I'm not talking, this isn't just for people who identify with healing arts or healing modalities or work in those fields. You could be an accountant, you could be a lawyer, you could be a prime minister or a president, and you could be a healer. You could have these healing capacities and instincts. And if you've never identified them, you will think, just like I said, you will judge yourself not as aware and not as a healer and not as someone who has these capacities. You'll judge yourself as someone who's always sick, who's temperamental, who has anxiety, who gets depression, who gets into a funk, who has a lot of pain in their body, and you don't know how to change it. And so if it resonates for you when I ask, are you a healer? So truth, are you a healer? Do you heal the people around you? Do you heal places that you go to? Do people find your presence comforting? And if the answer to that question is yes, and you're also someone who is, like I said, susceptible to environments, meaning you help others feel better and you contribute to the environment whenever you go into it, but you also take on things and you don't actually feel so great, then again, that often means that you are a healer. You have these capacities to change energies or to contribute energies to people. But if you don't recognize you're a healer and you're not doing anything to help yourself, to give yourself the tools to deal with this, to not take on all of the information and all of the energies that get pushed at you, and you take it on and you make it yours and you think it's yours and you think you're sick all the time, it's not going to be doing a service to yourself. So stepping into your capacities, remember, along with realizing how bored you are and how little you have been choosing, remember to start to ask these questions. And if it rings true for you that you are a healer, there is so much more you can now start to do and start to read and start to develop these tools. Any questions around that? Okay. Things I recommend for you, no matter who you are and what's going on for you, is to find the people and places that resonate with you that can actually help. There are so many books, there are so many classes, there are so many people like myself. We have so many videos on YouTube that are free of charge. We have so many articles or blogs or links, webinars like this that are free and give you that initial information. That, remember, the rule of thumb, and I'm sorry, I should have said this at the beginning, is you may not agree with everything that I say, and if it doesn't feel light for you, if it doesn't feel congruent with you, if it does not resonate with you, please don't take it on. You do not have to believe what I say. Find the people, find the places, find the information that resonates with you, that makes you feel light. When I talk about light, it means there is a feeling of, oh yeah, of recognition, of acknowledging that that is true for you. Acknowledge that it's true for you, and then follow that lead. Follow your gut instinct to find out more about that topic. One author will lead you to another. Social media is so amazing these days. You know, you'll click on one person you like, and then Instagram will recommend you other people you can follow and find out more information from. So you can follow this trail to find and listen to people. And don't listen to anyone and don't buy any information from anyone that doesn't resonate with you. Because especially in the area of anxiety, empaths, metaphysics, if you're getting into this kind of stuff, you really do have to kind of separate the stuff that is somebody telling you something that is not actually correct for you versus somebody empowering you to ask the questions that are true for you, that do resonate with you, and that help you figure out what's going on for you and what will help you change your life. So please remember to do that. That's a really, really important part of being in this field, or being around, going to anyone, whether it's for financial help, whether it's for physical help, whether you're in pain, whether you're going to see a practitioner. Only see someone that makes you feel like you are seen and heard, and that gives you information that feels congruent and authentic to you, and that you are comfortable doing the things that they recommend. Never go against yourself. Never go against your knowing. It's never a service to you to do that. It's always a disservice to go against yourself. Again, you know so much more than you give yourself credit for. You are so much more aware than you give yourself credit for. So do not think you need to give yourself up to an expert and follow any expert advice that does not feel like it is true for you. There's so many authors and books that I recommend. I could go on, depending on who you are and what field you're in. You can go more scientific based. You can look at someone like, Bruce Lipton talks about the biology of belief, or you've got Joe Dispenza, and he's got a new book right now called Becoming Superhuman. It's really cool, and it talks about the capacities that you have, that you're functioning at so little of your potential. All of the work from Access Consciousness, there's so much information from Access. Like I said, there's so much information that I have up on my website, on my YouTube channel, on my Facebook page. I highly recommend a body whispering class with myself. The body whispering classes are a 2-day free-form class where we go into all the different areas of life and living and talk about creating your life and living in an intuitive way, in partnership with your body, which is a conscious entity. It's a conscious being. So your body has consciousness, you have consciousness, you have awareness. How do you put all of that together to create your life in your body congruently for you? And if you are a healer, if you have capacities for working on bodies or to helping people, then this class really helps you kind of recognize and exponentialize those capacities. We have some really exciting news talking about free resources. We have a podcast. I have my podcast coming out finally. It's coming out on the 1st of March, so in a couple of weeks, and it's called the Business Whisperer Podcast. And it's about creating your life in your business, again, intuitively. Creating it from listening to the whispers of your intuition, the whispers of your knowing, the whispers of the universe, of the entity that is your business. Because again, your business is an entity that has consciousness, and it can give you information and how to create your life and your business and your money in a way that is authentic and congruent and therefore successful for you. So keep your eyes out for that. You'll see that go up, I'm sure, on social media, and I'll pop an email into your inboxes letting you know that you can listen and download episodes of that. And am I missing anything here? And next month in March, we're going to have a free Monetize Your Business challenge again in our Facebook group. It's called Monetize Your Business. And then if you are a healer, a facilitator, or a coach or practitioner, I have the Business Upgrade Program that I run twice a year. And so the first round of that for 2019 will start after the Monetize Your Business Challenge. And for those of you that are interested in developing more of these skills and having more of this information, that is what the Business Upgrade Program is about, how to really upgrade your business and your life by creating it intuitively, by not going against your knowing, not going against your body, not going against what comes naturally to you, and being as successful as you can by being you, okay? So any questions? Oh, that's where you can find me. You can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, and you can go to my website. Questions, comments, and queries?
A lot of questions to ask after. There is a lot of awarenesses. Just figuring out the mind cannot stop to ask the question yet.
I hope. Do you have any questions that you think might be a contribution to everyone else on here?
What can someone start? What is the one thing you would suggest someone to start doing now to unfunk themselves? What is the first step?
Yeah, the very first step is, like I said, and I will try and send the slides to you when I email the replay to you guys, is to acknowledge what is true for you. So for me, the reason I did this webinar is when I acknowledged that I was bored again, that my life had started to get super funky again, because what happens is, for those of you that do a lot of self-development work, like myself, for a lot of you that are always doing classes and doing more and reading more, what will happen is you'll go to a class, you'll do some stuff, and you'll get to this next level. And so then you might make some changes in your life, right? And because you made these changes in your life, or you up-leveled yourself, what we don't realize and remember is how quickly we continue to up-level, and how much we don't increase what we are doing in direct proportion to how much we have gotten to a new level of potency, a new level of capacity, a new level of being after each time that we are up-leveling. And you don't have to be going to classes or courses or anything, of course. I'm just giving you an example. So what happens is we don't change our life often enough. And when I say change our life, I mean we don't change the expectation and the demand and the ask that we have of ourselves, and the work that we are doing, and what we think is normal. So what will happen is Wendy will increase her output dramatically after today, I'm sure. And she'll start functioning at, she'll go from 25 to 50% of her true potential. And she'll start to feel really good and energized again. And, for those of you that are freaking out about like, how the hell much do you expect me to do in a day or a week, Adeela? The more you do, what I'm talking about is increasing your output to match your potential. But the more you do in the areas where you feel on fire, where you feel on purpose, where you feel connected to yourself and why you're here, it doesn't feel like work. Doing the stuff that makes you feel so happy, it doesn't feel like you're doing more. You're actually creating more, but you're feeling more alive and like you have more energy. So Wendy will go from 25% to 50%. And what will happen is she'll feel great for about 3 or 4 weeks maybe. And then at about the 5th or 6th week, she starts to feel a bit funky again. She's like, what's going on? And we never think, well, I must not be doing enough, because heck, you're already doing so much. And you already changed your life so much after the last call you did or the last class you did. How much more can you change? And yet, if you look at nature, or you look at any organism that has this intuitive way of being, how much is going on with nature at all times? How much is going on in a tree that we don't even realize? How much goes on for the leaves to fall, and then for the snow to come, and then for the leaves to come back, and then for it to blossom and then to bloom, and all of that. So much is always going on. It's always changing. It doesn't say, okay, well, I flowered for the season, so I don't have to change anything now. There's always change, and we don't change as much as I suspect that we do not change as much as what would come intuitively and naturally to us, because we've created this life in this society that is so stuck and so based on needing to remain consistent and the same. Otherwise, without consistency, how can anything work, right? And so that with business whispering as well, people are always like, you can't just keep changing everything in a business every 5 minutes. And I agree. I have multiple businesses. I know what it takes to run a business. And this isn't about changing things necessarily externally. I'm not saying you quit your job every 5 days, or you pack up and leave where you live. But we just don't make enough changes or even slight adjustments to attune to the energies that are required of us in our life, to keep ourselves engaged in the process of life, to keep ourselves engaged in our own life, and in the creative potency and capacity of creating our life. So it gets very boring, we get bored, and then our bodies start to hurt because our bodies are bored, and we don't do enough, and we don't move our bodies enough, and we don't give it nourishing energies. We don't do the things that are contributing to ourselves enough. And we basically just continuously undervalue and underserve and underestimate how amazing we are and what we require. And that kills us. And it feels like, and it's so boring, it starts to kill us. And this is where the pain comes in. This is where disease and illness and anxiety and drama and trauma comes in, because you literally don't know what to do with yourself. So you create some stuff to take up your time and energy.
Adeela, you have so much information in that there that it really, like, you have brought an awareness to some area that I have never considered. Like, for people like ourselves who loves to keep creating changes in us, sometimes we focus on what we think we have to change, right? And then yes, as we do our classes or read a book or whatever, we created a change and we say, oh yeah, I'm so much more happy now, or I'm so much more peaceful, whatever stuff, right? And then we just look at that and say, oh yeah, that's great, that's the change. And when you were seeing all that, all of a sudden I just realized it's like, that's just where I'm looking at. I didn't realize, or I haven't looked at, like, what other hidden areas that I have not looked at has also changed that now requires something different. And it's sort of like how we put different things into different sections that we go, oh, today we look at this, tomorrow we will look at this. And life is not like that. It's like, you just made me realize when you change, it's like everything has changed to a certain degree, and therefore they demand something to be different. And yet we weren't even think about looking at that and say, whoa, that's why. Because so many times you say, or like when we hear people say, you're bored, you're right. We will just go like, yeah, but I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I forgot that I have changed, I've expanded, I have all that have more room for it. Like, it didn't click until now that I'm starting to see what you're saying. Because I'm like just so focused in certain area of change that I look at, rather than it's a big picture. It's not one corner of the picture that I'm changing.
And also, when you make that change, most people stop there because you think you've got the answer for now. So you go, oh, I made this change. It was the change I was looking for. I'm suddenly so much happier and more engaged. And then you stop. And like you say, you don't look at the other areas. And you also, then you don't think to change again in a fortnight or in a month, because you already changed a month ago. So you just don't think that you change that quickly, but you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the amount of energy that's required to keep your life looking and feeling the same day after day after day, to stretch into years, and to create a life that's consistent for years so that you fit into this reality. And in this reality, it's celebrated because you're considered a stable and reliable person if you live in the same place and you keep the same job for a long time. The longer you do those things, you're actually celebrated for being a stable and reliable and responsible person. And it's so counterintuitive to the being that you are. So we're really working hard to mutilate ourselves and to fit into this box so that we're not too out there and too different and too crazy. But that is what is killing us. That is what's creating the boredom. So that is what this whole conversation was about, because when I had that awareness for myself, I was like, holy moly. And it was interesting for me because, again, I'd literally come back only about 4 weeks ago from Australia, like, I'm always traveling. And so this is what I mean, is people look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're always traveling, you're always away, you're always at a class or running a class, and it's a joke for them. And so what energetically I receive is, oh, you're too much. Can't you just settle down and stay in the same country for longer than 4 weeks at a time, right? And so 4 weeks after I attended a facilitator's class in Australia, I was like, how could I be bored again here in New Zealand? But I was. And that's what created this awareness for me. And so this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you guys. And I hope it's been a contribution. And What else is possible? Unfunk your life. Stop being bored, stop being broke, stop being in pain. I promise if you do these things, if you acknowledge what's true for you, if you give yourself permission to function, ask, truth, what percentage of my true potential am I functioning with? And when whatever number you get, you then say, okay, so if I wanted to at least double that, or if I wanted to go from 25 to 50%, what would I need to do? What would I need to change? And you start to make those changes and you give yourself the permission to make those changes. You won't be bored anymore, and you won't have these areas of funkiness, and you won't have the little money in your life that you are having that's also creating pain. Because what percentage of your true potential are you creating to in terms of your financial reality? How much of a lesser financial reality are you also choosing compared to what you could truly have if you were willing to back yourself and be the wild, wacky you that you are? So the world needs you guys, so go out there, be you. And thanks for joining me, and have a beautiful week ahead. And I hope to see you somewhere sometime in the world. Okay? Take care.